We're fully into the swing of election season in Nigeria, and the paparazzi are having a field day. We're seeing pictures everywhere. We're also seeing interviews on the pages of the newspaper, on radio, on TV. We like to call that political paparazzi politics. My name is Isabella Akinshe, and Political Politica starts now.
The Nigeria of the future is for dreamers like me.
I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
Our local government areas must become special economic zones.
I hope to disrupt the politics of failure.
There will be no sacred cow.
Dissolve all the congresses, dissolve the convention, and start all over again.
Mr. President, my people are under siege.
Leadership is not about the position you hold.
You can't shut down your shop and be chasing criminals.
If you allow criminals, there will be no shop.
Find ways to fix your judiciary.
That's what say I.
And most importantly, fix the mind of the people.
The party must do what is right.
Nigeria suffers from a state of economic radiculopathy, social sciatica, and political dystopia.
Welcome back to Political Politica with me, your host, Isabella Akinshe. Let's meet our guest. He is a human rights activist and pro-democracy campaigner. He is the founder and publisher of the international news agency Sahara Reporters. The website's main preoccupation is citizen journalism, supplying videos, photos, news stories, and commentaries that expose official corruption and abuse in Nigeria's government. He was an active participant in the June 12 pro-democracy struggle. He studied geography and planning at the University of Lagos and holds a master's degree in public administration from Columbia University. While in the University of Lagos, he was deeply involved in anti-military demonstrations and student unionism, which ultimately culminated in his election as the president of the student union government, where he served between 1992 to 1994. He teaches modern African history at the City University of New York and post-colonial African history at the School of Art, New York. He is the African Action Congress presidential candidate. He is Omoleye Sowore. Omoleye, welcome to Political Politica.
Thank you for bringing me.
So let's go straight into our topic of the day. We're looking at what I would like to call paparazzi politics. Politics for the optics, politics being played out in the media. There are so many candidates coming out, interview after interview. What do you make of that?
That's the season for it. And that's what you expect, that politics will bring about all kinds of tactics for coverage of political happenings and events. And I guess different people call it different names. I'm hearing about this political paparazzi for the first time, so something new.
So you think everybody coming out really believes they're going to win and they're not doing it to sort of position themselves for maybe an appointment?
Different people have different reasons for entering into a political contest. I cannot second guess why people do it. I'm not in a position to tell. I'm not walking around with the intention of trying to define why different people get into political contests. I can only speak for myself. There's no reason to be looking at a crystal ball instead of contesting and pushing out the ideas that I have to attract votes, to ensure that I win this particular contest as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I'm not in this to be called a former candidate or a former contestant. No, I'm in it to win. So
paparazzi politics, do you think it plays such a huge role when it comes to securing victory at the polls, or do you think it's more about the behind the scenes, the grassroots engagement, the things we don't see on TV splashed around in the pages of the newspaper?
So in the case of our own contest, we don't even get that many TV coverage. We didn't have that, we don't have that much newspaper presence. We're using social media and unorthodox means of reaching out to voters, and it has worked effectively. So I don't know if that applies to what we do. In the sense
but you're still using the media, you're using new media.
Exactly. What I'm saying is I'm doing it on my own. I'm reporting myself, or we're reporting ourselves. So because you made reference to newspapers, you're not likely to find that many stories or if I thought you find any about us in newspapers today, I'm talking about print, but you're likely to find a lot of materials on electronic and on the web media. Absolutely, yes. So, but again, to address your question, we're not doing it so that, you know, for the optics, we're doing it for substance.
But if you were to gauge, how much will you say the media coming out to do a debate, coming out to grant an interview like you're doing right now, plays a part in ensuring victory at the polls?
It's part of politics. It's, you have to reach out to people, to as many people as possible, through as many platforms and medium as possible. That's why we're doing this. So if I leave this place, I'm going to go to another TV station. If I have a chance, I do a radio show. When I'm walking around, I live stream my movements. I attend rallies, I go to churches, I go to villages, I go onto the bank of rivers, I climb on a mountain. When people can see that life, I make them available to them so that they can have a view of how things are going and they can decide how they want to connect and engage and interact with my messaging or messages, and that will help them form an opinion about who I am and why they should vote for me. It is completely a legitimate way of reaching out to people. So I'm not questioning how much is out there in terms of materials for public consumption. They need it. The public is in need of it. They ask us for it. They are always consistently and constantly asking for materials, content that they can interact with. And it's our duty to provide that to them. And when we don't, you lose out in helping them decide who is best for them. Sometimes it's just optics. Sometimes within that optics, they find substance. Sometimes people also don't have time to look at, you know, rich content as much as we would love for them to see it. They just need content that they can interact with and engage with instantaneously and with little time, because the world is suffering from attention deficit disorder. There's just too much out there and things are happening so fast. If you don't put a little bit of your materials in people's faces, you lose out in connecting with them.
What about the Nigerian voter that takes in all that political paparazzi, takes in all that content that you're feeding, but still makes their decision based on what a pastor is going to say, an imam is going to say, where that person is from? Do you feel that there's any need to still give them that material?
Oh, absolutely. You have to give them materials so that you can make them become conscious. A lot of what you are talking about comes out of ignorance. A lot of people are ignorant about the value of voting for someone based on the content of their character, as opposed to their ethnic origin or their religious affiliation, or in some cases completely based on some other biases that has nothing to do with the well-being of a nation or their immediate environment. Our duty is to ensure that we are forceful in letting them understand that there's another way to look at this. And I think in our own case, we've done a great job at that. That people know, don't look at me from the point of where I come from, or which church I go to, or which mosque I go to. They're looking at it from the point of what is up there. What has this guy done? What has he got in, integrity? Has he got antecedent? Is there a rich history behind him? And if I was not constantly putting out materials and content out there, some people would never even have known that I've been an activist or I've been around within the Nigerian political scene for 30 years. They would have assumed that I just came from nowhere. Like
you came back from America, and now you want to be president.
Gone and I just came from the US. But they'll find out that, I was with Abiola in 1993, that I was a student union leader when I was in my 20s. That was baffling to a lot of people. But without putting out this content that we're talking about, contents, we would not have had that kind of impact.
So you say the political paparazzi is also responsible for political education?
And consciousness, yes. You have to use it to conscientize people, mobilize people, and educate people. Because people need to be armed with some evidence that they're taking the right decision. And it's your job to do that. And it also helps to, engage very well with them, because they ask questions based on these things. They ask your opponents, so what have you done? Because this other person did this, because we have evidence now. So we've reached an era of evidence-based campaign and politicking, and I think that's amazing.
And like we say in youth parlance, if you don't give them, how will they take it?
Exactly. And, it's very important that you understand that the world has changed, and, we are now in a digital era. In the past, you just needed to package yourself and tell the story through third parties, or tell it through a radio jingle or a TV advert. That's no longer enough, because the hunger for content has expanded exponentially to the extent that you have to constantly be in the faces of people. I used to talk about newspapers and how people responded to a newspaper story 10 years ago. If you didn't like a story or you liked it, you wrote a letter to the editor. The editor could get 120 letters, decide to publish the one he likes, all right? But today, if there's a story on a web page, people take that particular story, they push it to their own newspaper, which is their Facebook status page or their Instagram page or their Twitter. And within 30 minutes, you could have up to 1 million people commenting about the story, or liking or disliking it. That level of engagement is unprecedented. It's never happened before. And that has spread viciously into politics. So, and of course, it has a lot of fallouts as well. It also means that people can make up stories that are completely untrue.
Fake news. So there's been a democratization of the media space through technology.
Yes.
Thank you, Omoleye, for your contributions on our topic of the day.
Thank you.
We'll be going on a quick breather on Political Politica, but would like to hear from you on political paparazzi. What do you make of it? Can you make a comment about it? Do you believe it's real? Do you think it's necessary for politicians to constantly feed people with content? Please make your views count by using the hashtag Political Politica, and you can tweet at PP with Isabella. Political Politica is the handle to follow on Facebook and Instagram. We'll be going on a quick break, but when we return, it's our Politics and More segment. Do stay with us.
Political Politica. Politics for everyone.
Welcome back to Political Politica with me, your host, Isabella Akinshe. It's time for our Politics and More segment. So, Omoleye, this is an opportunity for you to share that political journey. So, you've been a unionist, you've been very active in the struggle for democracy. How do you marry that with this new image as a politician?
I don't want to be looked at as a politician. I would prefer to be looked at as a political activist, and I like to stick with that. The reason is simple. People who are called politicians in Nigeria, in our own local parlance, are people who are dishonest, people who take advantage of people or the country, people who are corrupt, and people who are wheeler dealers. And I don't want to be looked at that way. So, of course, I struggled with that. And I think at this point, people are very clear about my reason for joining politics is to clean up the political space, which is what I've always been doing. As a student activist, fighting the military, as a media practitioner, fighting corruption, helping to broaden the democratic space, democratizing media as well, and ensuring that people have a chance to have their voice heard on issues that affect them all over the world. So I don't have a problem with being labeled. I think I've clearly defined myself and my purpose in politics.
And you want to sanitize the system, but people will say that politics is dirty, that surely you'll get yourself dirty in the process.
Politicians, the people you call politicians, made politics dirty so that only the dirtiest people can survive political contests. But we have to sanitize that. And ensure that clean people can partake in political processes and remain clean and true to their ideals and ideas till the very end.
What are some of your political ideologies? I
am a welfareist. I believe absolutely in the welfare of the people, first and foremost, before everything else. So even though I hate labels, because at the end of the day, labels don't do justice to character.
So the government will be very involved in providing services, amenities?
Absolutely. Social services, providing amenities. Government is always the one providing services and amenities. And the private sector, as they call them, would come and pounce on government services, they pounce on government properties, they're sold to them, and then they take credit for it all the time. I'm not against private entrepreneurial engagement within a society. But what I'm against is the rent-seeking system, where people take advantage of what should belong to everybody, take it for themselves, and then claim credit for it. And we've seen that happen. That level of abuse is not in any way something that can be described as success or entrepreneurial spirit. I know what it means to be an entrepreneur. I started a website with one laptop, and in 12 years it became probably one of the most competitive media company on the continent of Africa and the world, well recognized for it. So it's different from me sitting here and being willed to an NTA property, and then I claim that I'm an entrepreneur after that. It's just unconscionable.
Who are some of your political, the people you draw inspiration from? I want to call them godfathers and godmothers.
Godfathers are not people you draw inspiration from. Godfathers are people who pin you to the ground and feed you with whatever they want.
So some will say they are political mentors, so
no, they're not
they're
mentors.
Just guiding you.
They're not guiding you, you're helping them to do what they want. You're a proxy to godfathers, so I wouldn't use the word godfathers. But to go back to your question, I mean, Nelson Mandela is a great example of someone who started as a political activist and took it till the end. As a statesman, he led a country coming from prison, and he has shown great example. I have Barack Obama, who was referred to as a community organizer, led the US for 8 years. Locally here, we have Chief Gani Fawemi and things that he did. Femi Falana, I hang out with Professor Wole Soyinka. Even though they may not have made success of their political activism in terms of transitioning into, real politics, I respect them and I draw inspiration from them. I am friends with some of them till date, and some of them have been very, very supportive. So, besides that, there are a lot of unknown individuals out there who have been so supportive. If we mention their names, you won't know. But these are great people as well, and I don't want to step over them in saying thank you to all for making my political journey an exciting one.
I mean, if you get into government, how much radicalism will you still be able to keep? How much of your activism will you be able to keep? Or will you water it down for things to move?
So there are compromises that I would never make. So I'm never going to pay somebody to do their job or bribe someone to do their job. I'm not going to steal or let people steal things that belong to the public under my watch. I'm going to ensure that every project that has my signature is started and completed on time, especially because they have been budgeted for and paid for. I'm going to ensure that people get what they deserve, healthcare, education, food security, and have a country that is thriving. I'm saying it because I know it's possible. It's possible even around us. I mean, countries like Rwanda, Ghana, Kenya, they're doing well. And it happened because leadership did not remain leadership. We got to a point where it became transformational and innovative. And that is what is absent in our current political reality.
And my final question on this segment will be, if you're not successful at the polls, will this be the end of trying to seek elective office, or are you willing to work with whoever is victorious at the polls?
I've always been working for the greatness of Nigeria. I've been doing it for 30 years. It didn't matter who is in power. When the military was in power, same questions were thrown. You know, if you're unable to push the military out of office, would you rest? No, we're not going to rest until we attain the best for ourselves. You know, I've been asked, when I started Sowore Reporters, you know, if nobody reads you, would you close down the platform? I said no.
But will you keep coming back to contest for president?
We have to keep doing what needs to be done until we get it right. You know, so this is not just about it's not just about me, it's about a generation of people, young people particularly, 70% of them, who definitely know that the current levels of abuse, political abuse, corruption, and incompetence is not sustainable. So I'm not even contemplating losing, because it's a battle we can afford to lose. Otherwise, our generation will just grow extinct. And I don't imagine that I would be part of those who will let that happen. So it's a battle that cannot stop.
Thank you, Omoleye.
Thank you.
We'll be taking a quick break on Politico Politica. When we return, it's straight into our Project Nigeria segment. You don't want to miss that. Welcome back to Politico Politica with me, your host, Isabella Akinshe. It's time for our Project Nigeria segment. So you're a lecturer, and I want you to see Nigeria as a project. So Project Nigeria. Will this project be successful? Will you give it a pass mark?
Are you talking about so far?
Yes.
No, I can't give you the pass mark. It's been
Is this an F9, a dismal failure?
Abysmal, I don't want to call it dismal. Nigeria has been tossed into the abyss. And so as a result, dismal failure, no question about it. So it's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. It's the reason I've done this for 30 years. It's that I have found the level of failure of leadership of the so-called Nigerian project as something that is unacceptable. And that must be contested. That level of decadence must be contested until we find a project that is working. It will be unfair, or probably it's an oxymoron to call it a project. It's just something that it's not a project. If it was a project, there would have been levels of success that you can measure. And it's okay, maybe, this one didn't work, but it wasn't.
Like maybe you didn't get the final answer, but the workings, like in mathematics, show that you've been successful.
No. Except you want to do what they call wuru-wuru to the answer in Nigeria, where you come to a conclusion that something succeeded because you couldn't figure out how it.
So you walk back from the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So you're walking back from the answer. No.
What would you say is the factor that is responsible for this, in your words, abysmal failure? Will you say it's strictly a leadership problem?
It is a leadership problem. It is. The moment you get it wrong with leadership, right, there's nothing else that can work. Nothing else works. And so I've heard people postulate that, followership is also part of the problem. That could be true, but you see, there's no election where followers are elected because societies are designed and formulated around leaders.
But some will argue that the followers get the leaders they deserve because they elected the leaders.
That could be true. But that is if the leaders have not figured out how to create their followers. In Nigeria, the leaders have succeeded in creating the kind of followers that create the leadership that they don't deserve. I don't know if this makes sense. We have to just look at it from that angle, that most of Nigeria's problem is like a carefully crafted system that produces every result in the interest of a few. And in that case, whenever the result is supposed to present terrible followership, they're going to create the followers. I've even argued before, and I hate religious controversies, that Nigerian politicians figured out how to create their own God. And that is to say that the Nigerian God doesn't get angry, doesn't get upset, so it's a customized God. So you see a church that's filled with politicians who have done terrible things, carried out murder, stolen monies meant for babies, and the church leaders will ask them to vote for them, everybody will say amen. Nothing happened. And you're wondering what happened to thunder in the days of God that doesn't tolerate nonsense. You know, that's on the lighter side, but that's how bad things are.
So what will your leadership be like? What are you offering the people of Nigeria? How will you take Nigeria to being Project Nigeria from an F9 to an A1? It's
going to be completely transformational. You know, most importantly, very innovative, bold, very, very radical leadership. And I'm saying it so that nobody will come back and say, oh, you know, you never told us. It's going to be a non-nonsense, you know, very competent leadership that will take every project that is required on those 10 planks that we want to revive Nigeria and make sure that everything is being done without rest. It's going to be leadership with stamina. You find us everywhere. Everywhere you turn, you see us. You know, in the road construction, your hospitals, you feel it, because that's also part of how you motivate society to believe in their own space. And when you motivate people, you'll be surprised how many people are out there who are just, they're not looking for handouts, they're not looking for money. They just need motivation. They need to be able to wake up to believe in the leadership of the country. And that will spark innovation in their heads, and they'll produce something that you never heard about before because somebody motivated them to do it. It happened in the movie industry in this country, it happened in the music industry. So if you can imagine if that happens in leadership, everybody will be dancing to the leadership music out of Nigeria.
And how will you position Nigeria as that giant of Africa?
Is to stop calling Nigeria a giant of Africa, because that's what put us to sleep. We are not giant of anywhere. We are just a gigantic failure as a nation. Go to work, do what needs to be done, move your people, give them employment, give them health, give them education, and see what they can do. Because without even doing any of these things, look at what Nigerians are doing on their own whenever they step out of here. Nigerians are successful everywhere else in the world except inside of Nigeria. There's something holding back their progress here. We must break that chain.
And my final question will be, how will you make Nigeria safe and secure for its citizens and for even foreign direct investment to come in?
So it's going to be that we overhaul our security system, but the security system cannot be in isolation of employment, healthcare, electricity. Otherwise, you will have a police state. What makes people take to crime most of the time is because they can't find regular jobs. If you keep them busy. I was at the University of Lagos the other day, we were talking about housing, and I proposed that we turn Nigeria into a construction site. So if everybody has a job, if we invest $3.6 billion trying to build houses, 17 million houses, and they go to work from morning to night, and the next day they're looking for, probably they have less time to go doing Yahoo or trying to kidnap, because there's work to be done and they're getting paid and they're investing, and there'll be nightlife. Like I said, people will be innovating and they will feel a full involvement and engagement within the within the economy of the country, and by extension its politics. This is how it is done everywhere else. And then you build your country out of poverty. You can innovate out of poverty. You can educate out of poverty. You can grow crops that will provide food security, and you feed yourself out of poverty as well.
Thank you, Omoleye.
Thank you.
We'll be going on a quick break on Politica, but when the show returns, it's our light-hearted segment. I call it the Quickfire segment. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Politica with me, your host, Isabella Akinshare. It's time for our Quickfire segment. Omoleye, are you ready?
Yes, let's see what you have.
Number one, the first female governor will emerge in the next elections. True or false?
Most likely false.
Number two, the party that will dominate in 2019 is?
AAC.
Number three, young people have what it takes to be leaders because?
They are innovative.
Number four, the funniest thing I've read about myself online
is the fact that I smoke weed.
Number five, the candidate I am most afraid of.
No one.
Number 6, Nigerians will vote with their stomach or their brains.
This time around, hopefully, they'll vote with their thumb.
With their thumb?
Yes.
Number 7, if not you, who?
If not me, me.
Thank you, Omoleye. We'll be going on a quick break on Political Politica. I would like for you to check out what's happening on the political landscape. And when the show returns, it's our final word segment. Enjoy. Welcome back to Political Politica with me, your host, Isabella Akinshe. It's now time for our final word segment. Omoleye, as the name implies, final words. We want you to imagine you're taking your final breath and you have the ears, the eyes of millions of Nigerians and indeed the world. What will you say to them? And please say that to your camera.
Just to say to you that it's the best time to be alive because you are completely in control of your destiny and you can change everything that has been wrong about your country, the leadership, and your social and political circumstances. And I just implore you to join us, join hands with us, and carry out a revolution of a political nature so that our country can climb out of the abyss into which it was plunged by political buccaneers in the last 58 years. And do not, for 1 second, doubt that you can make it happen.
Thank you, Omoleye, for being our guest on Political Politica.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And all the best with your campaigns and the elections.
Thank you.
And that's where we'll be wrapping up this episode of Political Politica. But like I always say, politics is not just for the young. It's for the old. It's for everyone. So play a part and stay woke.